All right, welcome back. Today we're diving straight into something pretty crucial for how snappy your apps feel.
Yeah, it really underpins a lot of modern software performance.
Exactly. We're talking about making software lightning fast, specifically using something called Spring Cache Abstraction.
Mm.
Our source for this is, well, it's a great beginner's guide, actually. It lays out the basics, what it is, how it works.
Why people use it, the problems it solves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, and importantly, why it's still such a big deal right now.
absolutely.
So our mission today, let's try and demystify this for you. Show how understanding it gives you like a shortcut to grasping app performance and scalability. Might uncover some surprising things too.
And, if you've ever sat there drumming your fingers while an app loads
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
or a website just drags, well, this deep dive should give you a much clearer picture of the tech making things feel, instant.
Okay then, let's unpack this. Time to dive into the world of Spring Cache Abstraction. So first things first, if we're boiling it down, what is Spring Cache Abstraction? What are we actually talking about here in the Spring framework?
Right. So at its core, it's basically a way to make it easier for applications to um, temporarily store data they use a lot
Yeah.
for faster access later.
Okay, temporary storage.
Think of it like keeping a little notebook right on your desk.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of running to the, say, main library that's your database every single time for the same piece of info.
You just look at your notes.
Exactly. You keep a copy right there. The source actually has a good analogy. Imagine an online store keeping a list of its most popular products right nearby. It avoids those slower, repeated trips back to the main database.
That's a really clear image. So it's fundamentally about efficiency, right? Avoiding those slow fetches for data that maybe doesn't change all that often.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And for beginners, another way to think about it is like having a smart assistant. This assistant remembers the common request prices of top items, maybe, and gives them to you instantly.
Instead of digging through that huge filing cabinet, the database every single time.
You got it. And the really cool thing for developers is how it lets them do this.
Ah, okay. So what makes it powerful for them? What are the features?
Well, a big one is simplified caching. They mainly use these things called annotations.
Annotations, like little tags in the card.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Little markers or instructions you pop right into the code. They tell the Spring framework, hey, the result of this method, cache it. Makes adding caching super intuitive, even if you're not like a deep caching expert.
Okay, so easy implementation. What else?
Then there's flexibility. It supports different cache providers. You might have heard of things like Redis or maybe EhCache.
Vaguely. So those are different underlying systems.
Right. Redis is often used for big distributed systems. Think multiple servers needing access to the same cache. EhCache is maybe simpler, often used for caching within just one application instance.
Ah, so
And the beauty is developers can switch between these, maybe start with EhCache, then move to Redis later, without having to rewrite all their application logic. The abstraction layer handles it.
that sounds incredibly useful. No vendor lock-in, kind of.
Sort of, yeah.
Hmm.
It also helps manage consistency, making sure the cache data gets updated or removed if the original data changes.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to show an old price, right?
Definitely not.
And it integrates smoothly with Spring Boot, which is super common for web apps, APIs, microservices today.
Mm-hmm.
And crucially, all this leads to better scalability, helping apps handle way more users because the database isn't getting constantly hammered.
Okay, wow. So for a beginner listening, it's essentially this powerful shortcut. Speeds things up by keeping common data close by, and it's relatively easy for developers to set up and manage.
It's a great summary. Yeah.
All right, we've got a decent handle on the what. Now, how does this smart assistant actually work? What are the steps involved, the operational flow?
Okay, so think back to that quick reference notebook idea.
Yep, got it.
First, the developer has to decide what data is worth caching. Usually, stuff that doesn't change very often but gets requested like all the time.
Like that list of product categories you mentioned, or maybe user profile info.
Exactly. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then they use those annotations we talked about to mark the specific methods in their code that fetch this data. So maybe a method called getProductDetails gets tagged.
Okay, so they mark the function.
Right. Now, the first time that tagged method runs, say to get details for product 123, Spring Cache Abstraction steps in. It runs the method, gets the data from the database.
The slow way, the first time.
The slow way, yes.
Mhm.
And then it stores that results in the actual product details in the cache it's been configured to use. Could
Yeah.
be Redis, could be simple in-memory storage.
Gotcha. Stored away.
Now, the next time, that exact same method is called for product 123 again.
Ah, this is the magic part.
This is it. Spring checks the cache first. It sees, hey, I've got the details for product 123 right here.
Yeah.
That's called a cache hit.
Cache hit. Okay.
And it just returns that data instantly. Boom. No database query needed. Super fast.
And if the data isn't there, maybe it expired or it's the first time for that specific product?
Good question. That's a cache miss. In that case, it does the original work, goes to the database, fetches the data, stores it in the cache for potential future hits, and then returns it to the caller.
So it learns as it goes, essentially.
Kind of, yeah. And developers can control this. They can set rules like keep this data for only 10 minutes or set up ways to automatically kick data out of the cache if the original source changes, like that product price update we mentioned. That's called cache invalidation.
Right, got to keep it fresh.
Exactly. And the final piece is just configuring which cache system to use, Redis, EhCache, whatever, and Spring Cache Abstraction handles talking to it.
Our source mentioned that news website example, caching the top 10 articles.
Yeah, that's a perfect illustration.
So every time someone hits the homepage, instead of the app asking the database, what are the top 10 articles right now? Again and again.
It just grabs that list from the cache, milliseconds instead of potentially much longer. It makes a huge difference to the user experience, especially with lots of visitors.
Absolutely huge. Okay, that clarifies the how really well. So we know what it is, we know how it works. But let's dig into the why. Why is this such a fundamental tool for developers? What are the big benefits?
Well, the most obvious one, the one you feel immediately as a user, is just raw performance improvement.
The speed.
The speed. Going to a database takes time. Network calls, disk reads, it adds up. Caching takes response times from potentially seconds down to milliseconds. Apps just feel snappy. Especially important for APIs or busy websites.
Makes sense. What else?
A really big one is reducing load on servers and databases. Every database query uses resources, CPU, memory, network bandwidth.
Right, cost something.
They cost something, exactly. If you have thousands of users hitting your site, all triggering database queries, things can slow down or even crash. Caching drastically cuts down those queries.
So the servers can breathe easier, handle more users.
Precisely. Which leads directly to the next benefit. Enhanced scalability. Think about huge platforms, social media, e-commerce. They handle insane amounts of traffic.
Yeah, Black Friday sales, things like that.
Perfect example. Caching is essential there. It reduces the strain on the core databases so much that the application can scale to handle thousands, even millions, of simultaneous requests without falling over or needing massively expensive server upgrades.
Okay, so performance, less load, better scaling, anything else?
Yeah, remember the simplified development. Using those simple annotations means developers don't need to be like PhDs in caching theory to get started. It lowers the barrier to entry.
Makes it more accessible.
Definitely. And we already touched on the flexibility being able to swap cache providers easily. That's a big strategic advantage sometimes. And ultimately, all of this ties back to improved user experience. Fast apps keep users happy and engaged. The source used the shopping app example. If loading product details is quick, you're more likely to stick around and buy something than if it's slow and frustrating.
That's a great point. You know, it's hitting me that it's not just about speed, is it? You mentioned scalability, reduce load. It sounds like it makes the whole system more resilient.
That's a fantastic insight. Yes, absolutely. Think of it as a shock absorber. By handling so many requests without bothering the database, it prevents bottlenecks that could otherwise cascade and cause wider failures. It builds in a layer of stability, especially under pressure.
Wow. Okay, so it's speed, scalability, developer ease, user experience, and resilience. That's quite a list.
It really is a cornerstone of modern application architecture for these reasons.
So thinking back, before tools like Spring Cache Abstraction were common, what were the big headaches developers were constantly dealing with? Let's frame this around the problems it solves.
Oh yeah, life was harder for sure. The most obvious pain point was just slow response times.
The user waiting.
The user waiting, exactly. Constantly fetching the same product listings, user settings, whatever, from the database. It just made everything feel sluggish. Frustrating for users, bad for business. SCA directly fixes that.
Okay, slowness. What else?
Server overload. You'd see databases just get crushed under high traffic, especially during peak times like a big sale or a breaking news event. Apps would slow to a crawl, maybe even crash completely.
Not good.
Not good at all. SCA alleviates this massive pressure by handling so many reads from the cache instead. It acts like a very efficient gatekeeper for the database.
Okay, prevents overload.
Then there were scalability challenges. If your app got popular, Handling more users often meant throwing expensive hardware at the problem or engaging in really complex custom optimization work just to keep the database from becoming the bottleneck.
So scaling was harder and more expensive.
Much harder, much more expensive. SCA makes scaling smoother by reducing the baseline resource demand. You can often handle more growth with the infrastructure you already have. And related to cost, high operational costs, especially in the cloud era.
Ah, because cloud providers charge for database usage.
Exactly. Every query, every bit of data transferred often has a cost associated with it. Caching dramatically reduces that database interaction, which can lead to significant savings on hosting bills.
That's a concrete business benefit right there.
Absolutely. Also, just building caching systems manually, it was complex and error-prone.
Right, you mentioned developers didn't need to be experts now.
Yeah, before, you did need to be pretty expert. Rolling your own caching logic, handling invalidation correctly, integrating it tightly, took a lot of time, was easy to get wrong, and required specialized skills. SCA standardizes and simplifies all that with annotations and integrations.
Makes sense. One more.
The final big one was inconsistent data. If you weren't careful with managing your cache, you could end up serving stale data.
Like showing an old product price for a second.
Precisely. Or outdated user information. SCA provides built-in mechanisms like time-based expiration, TTL, time to live, and ways to actively remove or update cached items when the source data changes, helping ensure consistency.
Okay, so slow apps, overloaded servers, scaling nightmares, high costs, complex implementations, and stale data. It sounds like Spring Cache Abstraction tackles a whole suite of fundamental problems.
It really does. It addresses some core challenges in building responsive and robust applications.
So what this really means for you, listening, is that developers aren't fighting these battles quite so intensely anymore. They have this powerful tool that, yes, makes their jobs easier, but the direct result is that the apps you rely on are faster, more stable, and just better.
Well put, it elevates the baseline quality.
All right, let's pull this right into the present day. We're in 2025. Technology hasn't stood still. Why is Spring Cache Abstraction still so incredibly important now? What trends make it even more relevant?
Oh, it's arguably more important now than ever, driven by several key trends. First and foremost, user expectations for speed.
People are impatient.
Extremely. We expect things to be instant. Studies show even a 1-second delay in loading a shopping cart page can significantly increase abandonment rates. Users have zero tolerance for lag. SCA is critical for delivering those instant API responses, loading product details immediately, etc.
Okay, user impatience is number one.
Then there's the sheer explosion of data and traffic. Apps today handle vastly more data and many more concurrent users than even a few years ago. Think e-commerce platforms managing millions of products, or social media like X handling billions of requests.
Right, the scale is different.
The scale is completely different. Caching is simply essential to manage that database load, especially during peak traffic events like, say, Black Friday or a major global event driving news traffic. Without it, systems would just collapse.
Makes sense. What about how apps are built?
That's another huge factor. The dominance of cloud computing and microservices. Most modern Spring Boot apps run on cloud platforms AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and are often broken down into smaller, independent microservices.
Right, that's a very common architecture now.
And SCA fits perfectly here. You can optimize each microservice individually by caching its specific data needs. This improves the performance and scalability of the entire distributed system, which can get very complex in the cloud.
So it helps manage that complexity.
It does. And related to that is mobile usage growth. Performance is even more critical on smartphones.
Why is that? Limited resources.
Limited resources, yes, but also variable network conditions. You might be on flaky 4G or congested public Wi-Fi. Caching ensures that the APIs powering mobile apps can deliver data quickly and efficiently, even if the network isn't perfect, making the app feel responsive regardless.
Ah, good point. Didn't think about the network aspect.
And we touched on cost efficiency in the cloud before, but it bears repeating. Cloud costs are directly tied to resource usage. Reducing database queries via caching isn't just a performance optimization, it's a direct cost-saving measure. For businesses, especially startups running lean on AWS, this can be make or break.
Lowering the monthly bill. Always good.
Always good. There's also an aspect of reliability and even cybersecurity. Slow, inefficient APIs can sometimes be indicative of underlying problems or vulnerabilities. Keeping things running smoothly with caching reduces overall system strain, which can indirectly improve resilience against certain issues, maybe even things like DDoS attacks, which try to overwhelm servers. It's about efficiency reducing exposure.
Interesting connection there.
And finally, maybe more for the developers listening, developer productivity and the job market. Because SCA is relatively easy to learn and implement, it boosts productivity. Teams can add caching without massive effort. And knowing Spring Boot and caching, that's a really valuable skill set in 2025. It opens doors for beginners looking to get into web development, backend engineering, or even DevOps roles.
So it's a practical skill to have. And we see this everywhere, right? The source mentions some big names.
Oh, absolutely. Concrete examples are easy to find. Think e-commerce. Amazon, for instance, definitely uses heavy caching in its Spring Boot APIs to make sure product pages load instantly, especially during Prime Day or holiday rushes.
Can't afford slowdowns there.
No way. Streaming services like Netflix, they cache tons of metadata, movie titles, descriptions, user watch lists, so browsing feels fluid and fast, even across millions of users.
Right? The browsing experience is key.
Social media. Platforms like X are caching user feeds constantly. That's how posts can appear almost instantaneously when you open the app, despite the billions of requests they handle.
Wow. The scale is mind-boggling.
It really is. And it's not just giants. Even a small startup, maybe building a fitness tracking app, they'd use caching, likely via Spring Boot, to store workout data or user stats. Makes their API feel responsive, keeps users engaged, helps them compete.
So it scales from startups to global enterprises.
Exactly. And for anyone new listening, wanting to get into development, the message here is really positive. Spring Cache Abstraction is approachable. You can learn the basics relatively quickly.
How would someone start?
Explore Spring Boot itself. It's the foundation. Build some simple projects. Use tools like Spring Initializer to get set up easily. And dive into online communities, Stack Overflow, Reddit forums dedicated to Spring or Java. Ask questions, look at examples. It's a very practical, valuable skill to pick up.
Great advice. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground. If we were to summarize the key takeaways from this deep dive.
I'd say Spring Cache Abstraction is fundamentally about simplifying caching. It lets applications store frequently used data nearby in memory, or systems like Redis to make things much, much faster.
Right. Improving speed, definitely, but also scalability, handling more users, and overall system efficiency.
Exactly. And it solves those really critical historical problems. Slow responses, servers getting overloaded, high cloud costs, the complexity of doing it manually, and the risk of serving stale data.
Ensuring those smooth, instant user experiences we all just expect now.
We really do. And its importance today, in 2025, is just amplified by everything we discussed. User demands for speed, the sheer volume of data, the way apps are built with cloud and microservices, mobile usage, and the constant pressure for cost savings and reliability.
So hopefully you listening now feel like you've gotten that shortcut. We promised a clearer understanding of a really vital piece of the puzzle that makes modern software tick.
It's a foundational concept for performant applications. Now, thinking about all this, it does raise an interesting question looking forward.
Oh, go on.
Well, we live in a world where, as we said, even a millisecond of delay matters for user engagement, for business costs. So thinking about the future, how might the next wave of advancements in caching technology further blur the lines between what feels like local data versus data coming from somewhere else globally? Could we reach a point where caching makes accessing anything on the internet feel truly instantaneously local?
Making the entire internet feel like it's right here on your device. Through smarter, maybe more predictive or distributed caching. That is an intriguing thought to ponder. What would that world look like?
Something to think about, definitely.
Indeed. Well, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive. Hopefully it sparks some curiosity. We encourage you to continue your own explorations into these fascinating topics. Until next time.